And
Yes.
at first I was like, oh gosh, am I going to be nervous if they like it? And
Uh-huh.
kind of as they were listening, and I was like thinking, I was kind of like, you know what? I obviously I want them to like it,
Hmm.
but I like it so much that
Yeah.
I don't actually care.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was fun. That was a fun little,
It's
yeah.
good. That confidence, that's infectious, you know? Sometimes those are the things that I think artists need before the team finds them or they
Hmm.
find the team, is like
Hmm.
going through part of that journey, which is very hard, but you kind of got to do some of that alone.
Love music more. Love music more. Ooh, love music more. Love music more. Music more. Music more.
What's good, everybody? Scoobert Dubert here for Love Music More. I'm about to have a great conversation with Serena Sun, a Chinese-Canadian artist, songwriter, and producer. One of the things I loved about that conversation was I always love what it's like for emerging artists, what they're going through, how they're confronting the challenges of this modern moment, as well as the opportunities. But I also like just that energy of I'm producing myself. I'm going to figure out my own core sound. I'm going to cultivate that. And she also just did a really interesting move from Vancouver, one town that I love, to London, another town that I love. But talking about the differences in that music scene and how it's influencing her sound, her perspective. And I just thought that she had a really unique kind of sense of where she wants to go and how she wants to get there. And she happens to be on one of my favorite record labels in the entire world, Indie Shake. So really excited for Serena Sun. She's got some amazing music. I got to hear a bunch of it before this episode, and I can't wait for you to hear this conversation and her music as well. Before we get into that though, DistroKid is our title sponsor. DistroKid makes music distribution fun and easy with unlimited uploads, and artists get to keep 100% of royalties and earnings. I use it because, again, 100% of your earnings and unlimited music. So if you want to get your stuff out there, it's a great way. And we've got a great deal for you for 30% off at distrokid.com/VIP/love music more, all one word. A million plus artists rely on DistroKid to get their music onto Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube, TikTok, Tidal, Instagram, and all of the other major streaming services. One of the things that I love about DistroKid is I've got my app, so I can go, oh, cool, I got some earnings, right to my bank. Oh, I need to check my UPC or my ISRC, some industry stuff. I can do that just right on my app, and that's just kind of a game changer because this career is full of flexibility and responding to a current moment. And you might be sitting on a subway and you get that call, hey, we need this and this and this for that song, or this person just sold their catalog, and all these kind of crazy things. DistroKid that is there to help you make it happen. So check out DistroKid at distrokid.com/VIP/love music more for 30% off, and enjoy this conversation with Serena. What's good, everybody? Welcome back to Love Music More. I am Scoobert Dubert, joined with Serena Sun. What's up, Serena?
Hey, how's it going?
It's going great. It's going great. Thank you so much for joining the program. I'm so excited to talk about your artist career, your move from Canada to the UK, and just kind of navigating what it's like to be an emerging artist with a bunch of attention, getting on Spotify playlists and Amazon playlists, which I don't know how you even get on Amazon playlists. So I'm excited. Maybe you'll teach me.
I was like, I don't know. We'll get into it. We'll get into it.
Is awesome. Is awesome. But I'm so excited to talk about kind of the career arc, the artist journey, what it looks like, post-pandemic, and also taking risks for your career. And I think that's a really cool kind of theme and nugget that I've talked to a lot of different people about, taking that leap. And I feel like moving to the UK is kind of that leap, or signing with a label like Indie Shake is kind of that leap. And people know the overnight success, but let's talk about the
Yes.
backstory and the things that happened before the quote-unquote overnight
Super.
success.
We are in the backstory. We are in the thick
Exactly.
of the backstory right
Exactly.
now. So yeah,
Yes.
I'm super down. Thank you for having me, by the way.
I've really been enjoying your music. I've been listening to it,
Likewise.
and I don't know. I like the idea of maybe we'll get a little glimpse in your biopic someday of being on the Love Music More
Oh my
podcast.
gosh, let's definitely put her in there. I'll be like, this is one of my first podcasts.
To start off, I want to zoom in on these last like year, making your EP
Mhm.
and signing with Indie Shake and making your move. How did all of that start to happen? How did you be like, okay, this is the time to double down and really just go for it in the career?
To be honest, moving here was it was like a wild card for me because I
Cool.
was living in Vancouver for I want to say around four
Okay.
years prior to my move. I'm originally from Vancouver, but I also spent some time in the US for boarding school, and then my undergrad was also in the US. I had been traveling to LA a bit and New York a bit, like for songwriting sessions and stuff prior to moving here. So nobody really, including me, like had it in their minds that I'd be moving to the UK.
Yeah.
But as a Canadian, there is this thing called the Youth Mobility Scheme.
Oh,
Anyways, that like there was just an easy process to get this visa. And
cool.
so, and it sounded like an adventure.
Yes.
So, long story short, me and my partner and our dog decided to make the leap around Christmas time, 2023,
Okay.
which is last year.
Yeah.
We like filled in the paperwork, got the visa,
Hmm.
and moved over in May. So it was just like maybe a 3 months, 4 months
Wow.
difference between when we decided to go
Yeah.
and we landed here.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it kind of came out of nowhere. But I was craving a move. And like you said, for the risk for the career,
Hmm.
like there was in the back of my head that I always did want to go somewhere like a city that had a bigger music industry
Yes.
and like an infrastructure where
Yes.
you can meet other artists more easily and play like shows in front of industry like leaders and stuff,
Yeah.
and maybe create more opportunities for yourself. Yeah, that's why I moved to London.
Cool.
The EP itself, like you said, like it's self-produced, self-written. It's the only time I've ever taken the time to do that,
Yeah.
and genuinely it's in existence only because I was lonely and bored
Cool. Yeah.
for my first several months in London. It was always like a goal of mine to create something from start to finish. Well, not finish, I guess. I have amazing mixing and mastering engineers
Yeah.
on it
Yeah.
that actually really brought it to life.
Hmm.
But with the production side, I really wanted to create the world myself. Yeah, when I moved here, didn't have any contacts, and I was kind of like, well, it's now or never. Let's give this a
There
try.
is magic in making music in those transition periods. I swear.
Totally.
Yeah.
Me too. I'm kind of like, should I uproot my life
Yeah,
like every
right.
2 weeks?
I know, totally.
Maybe not.
Totally. Exactly. Cheat code. There's something about that. I don't know what it is, what it does to the brain or those new environments or something like that, but it totally unlocks a different sort of sound, a different sort of energy. I moved into this place, my first
Are you in
actual.
San Diego
Yeah, I'm in
right
San
now?
Diego.
Beautiful space.
Thank you. Thank you. This is my
Yeah.
first time actually not, I mean, it's technically is a bedroom, but I've converted the bedroom into a recording studio, which
It's
is
a
crazy.
magical spot. Yeah, it doesn't matter like what it is. Like I think that's awesome. Also, like those panels are so sick. Did you
Thanks.
like make them?
No, I bought them. I bought them
Oh, they're
online.
gorgeous. Yeah. Oh,
And I
so
finally
sick.
paid them off. Woo.
Congrats! We love to see it.
but I made like an entire record the second I got this space because it was just like
Mm.
it was inspiring and it felt like I needed to clack the champagne on the ship, so to speak. Is like you're in a new
Yeah.
spot, you're in London, like I move into this room and it's just like okay, I gotta like christen this thing. I gotta make
Yeah.
music to make it
It's
real.
like what energy is
Yeah.
it bringing, And like I
Totally.
think that's so sick.
Totally.
Is the
So
record out that you made, or
the record
is
is
it?
out. The record is
Oh,
out. It is
sick.
called I, like the letter I.
Oh yeah. I've actually
Okay.
this.
It's sweet. Awesome.
Very
Thank you.
cool.
So yeah, that's the sound of this space.
Love music more.
I've got some big news, everybody. My vinyl record is out. We didn't make a ton of these, so these guys are gonna sell out, and I would love for you to get your hands on one of them because they're so dope. They're so dope. And it comes with a whole bunch of like liner notes and pictures and special stuff, the things that really went into making this record. And I want you to get your hands on it. So go to scoobertdoober.pizza or check out my Instagram for a link or click the link in the show notes or the bio or wherever you're watching this to pick up your copy. They're going to sell out. We really did not make very many of these. And I want you to have it. It's like a collector's item. So thank you. Thank you for supporting my music. And I can't wait for you to hear it actually on physical vinyl. Enjoy the rest of the episode. I'm excited to talk about the different music scenes, the different energies. First, I want to talk about Indie Shake. So you get signed to one of my absolute favorite record labels in the world, and it's based in Sweden. So now
Yes.
you're in Europe. You have a European label. What has that been like? How did you sign that deal? And how's that been like helping and impacting your career? Being on a label that's obviously it's not like Universal or something like that, but it's a label that believes in their artists, works super hard, and I think is like a good modern blueprint for what artists want labels to be.
10 out of 10.
You know?
All of the
Cool.
above. I agree. Like it's been a dream
Yeah.
so far, to be honest. I think before I signed it, I had this light level of anxiety because this is the first time I've
Totally.
signed a deal
Every
like
artist.
this.
Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah, I've been very DIY up until this point,
Hmm.
working with amazing people who've helped me get certain things, but
Yeah.
I think giving it that level of control and also entering into a partnership that
Yes.
is like still technically unknown before you enter into it. You don't
Hmm.
really know fully what you're signing up for. It was a little scary, but Indie Shake's been incredible. Hakan's amazing. Yeah, I mean, they're artists themselves.
Yes.
So like I think having that background of knowing what it's like and knowing that you want to have a creative voice and like they're helping you in what you want to be helped with
Yes.
and letting you take the reins with the other parts that you feel confident in or like you like want to have more control over. So how I got into
Yeah.
contact with
Yeah.
them was through an artist here, Fran Lusty.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I've listened to Fran. Fran's
she's
awesome. Yeah.
amazing. Yeah, Fran's
Yeah.
sick. We met at a songwriting
No
circle.
way.
Yeah, and we got along really well. She came over and like we did a session
Actually,
together.
could you explain what
And
songwriting circles are? I'm sure there are people in
yes,
the
happy
audience that
to.
are like, why are they excited about that? Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, we're like, what is a
Yeah.
songwriting circle? Sounds like I don't know, like culty.
Right, totally. It kind of is.
Maybe, perhaps, yeah, a little bit. Basically, there's this other amazing artist named Juniper and their partner, who's another amazing artist, Fair Hazel. The two of them were in London for a short period of time, and they have their own community out here in London, but they were moving to Nashville.
Cool.
And before leaving, they wanted to host a song circle, which was inviting either some of their new artist friends or like long-term collaborators into their space, their living room. So it was kind of like very play what you feel comfy with, and if you even want to,
Hmm.
and get feedback if you're looking for it. And it was just such a wholesome,
Yes.
sweet, and like also a little nerve-wracking because some
Totally.
of these artists I was like, wow, like,
Yeah.
but yeah, no, everybody was super nice, and it felt like a good way to like just shed some walls from the get-go of meeting people and like being introduced to their art and like yeah, so that's how I met Fran.
I agree. And it's a cool thing because I want to do that again. It's been a long time,
Yeah.
and I really
Do you host them?
I've not I know I
Ever?
haven't hosted one. I probably could.
Oh,
Probably could now that I've
you
got a bigger
probably
space.
could,
Yeah.
yeah. You could even do it in a park, you know?
Yeah,
There's
that's
no
true.
like
That's true. There's no it
physical
doesn't have to be in a
space,
exactly.
right?
Exactly.
And you're in San Diego,
I'm in San
correct?
Diego, so
Yeah,
we got
it's
some
always
parks
sunny
and
over
stuff.
there.
Songwriting circles are cool because they're kind of equivalent to my brother-in-law writing fiction,
Mm.
and he does these kind of equivalent things where everybody kind of passes around the latest passages that they were working on and gets critiques. So they have like plot points or an outline for a book, and other artists kind of that are more experienced or less experienced look at it and give feedback. And it really changed his writing. And it's funny because songwriting circles is like the closest thing that we have of like your peers.
Yeah.
It's a safe
Yep.
space and a supportive environment
Definitely.
where you're able to try stuff out, and the audience is really tuned in because they're all songwriters. So you can like do something weird with song form and be like, does this land? Does this work? Am I
Yes.
overcomplicating it? Those kind of deeper
100%.
questions that are harder to get like feedback on, I don't know, Submit Hub or whatever, like that's just kind of a
Yeah.
little bit more like, I liked it, I didn't like it. It's like, no, I
Yeah.
want to know why, like why, what
I
about
think
this resonated?
also having in person or even like online with people's faces, I think
Yes.
it's just a totally different energy because like Submit Hub, it feels like I almost feel like I'm about to be judged. Whereas
Yeah,
in
yeah,
not
for sure.
necessarily that is what happens.
Yeah.
But I feel like I don't know, like with songwriting circles, it feels more personal.
Totally.
I mean-
There's different incentives, different audience. Submit Hub, like they're for what that is for people that don't know. That's like one of the key parts of the indie music ecosystem of kind of getting your music heard by independent playlisters, blogs, and things like that. And there are options to get feedback. Sometimes the feedback can be really harsh. I know
Yeah.
when I was growing as a mixing engineer, oh my God, did they hate my mixes?
Oh my gosh, my first production was like, you know what? To be fair, they were nice, but they were just
Yeah.
kind of like, this is very slow.
Yeah.
There's no
yeah.
beat. And I was like,
Right.
fair enough. In hindsight, they were
Yeah,
correct. So
totally.
you know what?
Right.
If you're open to more,
Exactly.
like, and they have also been nice. Sorry, I don't mean to
Yes.
be like,
No,
Submit
no,
Hub,
no.
this is a scary
Not
place
haters.
because it's not. But
Yeah, not haters. No, Submit Hub has been like an integral because I release all the time and getting my music out there, getting it on independent playlists, and you get on one independent playlist, a user finds it, they put it on their playlist, and it's
Yeah.
like kind of helped get the whole like flywheel in motion, because how else do I get over 100 songs out into the universe and have people like starting to listen to it? That's the best way, is to get a little bit of creator action to kind of like
Right.
keep the thing flowing. And it's cheap. I don't spend more than like a couple $100.
You know what? I think
And
this
I'm
is
able
like
to, make something
re-inspiring
happen.
me to like submit through Submit Hub for my next release. Because it's
It's
been a while since I've actually thought about doing it that way.
it's another one of those like artist things
Yeah.
that's just hard to do. And in the same
Yeah.
way, like we should talk more about the label thing because
Hmm.
there's an inertia. There's like a decision paralysis, especially when you're
Hmm.
bringing a new member into
Into your
your
team.
creative circle, into your
Yeah.
team. Like that songwriting circle where that feels so safe. But then when you
Yeah.
start adding in like business people or like lawyers and
Yeah.
contracts and making that really real, then the alarm bells start to go off because you're like, oh, artists always tell me be scared of record labels or be scared of
Yes.
agents or whatever. But the reality is be scared of the wrong ones.
Exactly. I agree with that fully. Because
Yeah.
I think this has already shifted my view on like the right
Okay.
partnerships, like working with Indie Shake. Because so far, like especially at my level where I feel like I want the support to grow to, reach more people and like maybe find people who like would really connect with the music. Like I think
Yes.
not like a scary move as much
Okay.
as I thought it was in my head when I was signing the deal,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Yes.
So yeah.
Totally. Totally. And it is so much a people business. I think I can understand the big conglomerate type, like signing
Yeah.
with a big major where you really are fighting to like survive and be seen. And because
Hmm.
you're one of a million emails and they'll ignore you the second they get what they want and all that kind of stuff
Oh God.
versus small, independent individuals, like you know their names and like they
Yeah,
run the
true.
company themselves. That is built on belief and
Yeah.
community, whereas the other, I think, is just built on profits and goals. Nothing wrong with
Right.
that, but those are like dangerous seas, hard to
Well, it's
navigate.
hard when you're entering the music industry early on and you get approached by a major, I
Yeah,
think. Like
yeah,
when you don't have like close friends who are
totally.
telling you horror stories or you haven't like dove into these podcasts like this where they're talking about like
Hmm.
reasons why majors are a bit scarier
Hmm.
to sign. So it's like when you go in blind, you're like, this is exciting, my whole life is going to change. And then maybe you're getting shelved for several years
Yeah,
and you're like, what the hell? Like I thought
yeah,
we were signing this so I could release music, But
exactly.
yeah.
Especially in the current environment where
Hmm.
if you don't release, you're not on people's minds because there's
Right.
just so much music and the way the algorithms and stuff. Musicians have to make music in order to
Yeah.
be
If
out
you
there.
feel barred, then it just like stops the creativity. So
Totally. And that's a crazy thing that labels can do of just,
yeah.
oh, this isn't ready. Oh, this isn't time. The idea of, just holding off on a record for 2 years and now all of a sudden it sounds 2 years old.
Oh my goodness. That would drive me
It
insane.
drive me crazy.
Yeah,
It
because
drive me
also like
crazy.
the story that you're trying to tell, like you want
Yes.
to explain it at a point where you're also feeling a bit more connected to it, right? So
Totally. Totally. And I
anyways.
also think like with music that goes viral or whatever,
Hmm.
music that feels like right now is so important. And hopefully like there's universality in the music that you make and that it can last
Yeah.
forever. But like even, I don't know, even like Fleetwood Mac or whatever still sounds like
The
the
70s.
time it was recorded. It's like,
Yeah.
it sounds
But it
like
feels
that.
nostalgic in that way too. And we
Yeah,
love that,
exactly.
right?
Exactly.
So
But
it's
like
like
how
there's a
weird
beauty
would
in
it have
that.
been if like Rumors came out in like 85 or something? It'd be like,
Yeah, I'd be different.
yeah. It'd
Different
be,
response.
yeah, exactly. Exactly. It would just feel wrong. So, and then you lose that nostalgia. So, yeah, having a label that's open to actually putting music out might be my number one of like, yeah, are they cool people? Do
Hmm.
you vibe? Does it feel like community? Will they put music out?
Yeah, that's funny you say that because that was
Yeah.
one of the things I asked them on our first
Good.
initial call. I was kind of like,
Yeah.
so would there ever be a case where the music that we sign with you isn't allowed to come out? And he was like,
Yeah.
absolutely not. What the heck? And I was like, okay, good, good, good. That was my main fear. Yeah, definitely recommend calls
Yeah.
and vibe checks because I think
Yeah.
it's like, I don't know if you've ever heard this from any other artists, but it's like even
Mhm.
with managers and stuff, it's like almost like you're entering not a romantic relationship, but a
Mhm.
close-knit
Oh, yeah.
relationship where
Totally.
you're constantly communicating, and like if you don't feel comfortable talking to that person, like you're kind of just shooting yourself in the foot.
It's like hiring a CEO for your life or something. Like, and
Yeah,
you're both incentivized to make it work. Yeah.
yeah. But I think that's the case with like all collaborators too. Like I
Yeah,
think
that's
it's
true.
important, especially in writing rooms, that you feel comfy or like you make the other person, feel comfortable.
Taking that leap of faith. And then also, I love the idea too about those calls because
Hmm.
I feel like it's so easy, or like the way that people textbook think about it is I'll hire some big shot entertainment attorney and they're going to just like get the
To be
best
more
possible
official.
deal.
Like,
Yeah,
or
exactly.
yeah.
that it's a people business, and like you need to talk about it and figure out
Yeah.
like, yeah, what's your biggest fear? Like lay that on the
Hmm.
table, and then let's work around that, you know?
I'm definitely open with that. So this is my
Yeah.
biggest fear. Are
Yeah,
you gonna
exactly.
actualize
Exactly.
that?
Right.
That's so
Yeah, but
funny.
like when you're about to sign a contract, it's like what's preventing me? What's scaring me the most? And just like being
Mm,
upfront
that's a
about
good
that
way.
because that's like
Yeah.
those are your red lines, whether or not you know it.
Yeah.
And you need people. I know that there's like this idea of just independent everything. And I agree,
Right.
like on the production side, I think that's really cool to be able to DIY and then yeah,
Hmm.
choose what you want to do, you know, and you can
Hmm.
that can change over time. But in terms of like release partners and getting the music out there,
It's
it,
so
it
helpful
takes a
having somebody
community.
else. I
Yes,
think
right.
also like to what you were alluding to earlier with like the playlists and stuff, I
Yeah.
think there is a level of like industry know-how where a lot of the editorial playlisters do hear directly from like managers, labels, distribution partners, and that's almost like a more normal way of like being able to be pitched
Yeah.
rather than like directly from the artist.
Mm-hmm.
And if people are like negotiating like business side things, I think actually sometimes the artists aren't taken as seriously in these negotiations. So it
Yes.
is really helpful to have team members to be able to like bolster like your side when those situations come up. Because my background is in business, but since I am an artist
Yeah.
now, I think nobody views me as the business person.
Everybody's got their role that they are supposed to play, and
Hmm.
leaning into that a little bit is a good thing because that's what people see and expect and want from you. And you
Right.
can
Yeah.
always be on the side texting your business manager, being like, "Hey, don't go for that percentage." Like, "Hey, you
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
like you can be the business
10
person, just like a little bit more quiet about it." That's kind of a sweet spot because
Yeah.
then you can just be like vibing as an artist, as playing that role as you should, but still
Right.
protecting yourself and still sticking up for yourself, but having a team that can kind of play the good cop, bad cop a little bit,
Yeah.
and
This
then
is
you
such
get
a,
more
that is
power.
exactly what I was trying to say.
Cool, good.
Nailed it.
Awesome.
Exactly.
Awesome. And I hope that any artists that are listening to this like really think about that because
Hmm.
we are advocating not to do everything yourself, to get a team that you
Hmm.
trust. And these are the reasons why. You're going to get a higher percentage. You know, you're
Right.
going to get more favorable terms. People are not going to take advantage of you so much and you get to be more homey. It's like all of
Right.
the above. That's worth it
It's like
alone, I
you're
think.
protecting your peace so you can create the art that you want to and not get bogged down by all this like stress and like this. Because I get a little tense when it comes to negotiations, you know? I feel like sometimes it's harder to advocate for yourself than it is to advocate for someone you care about, you know? It's kind of like that's what your team is there for. I feel like a lot of people always ask like how do you get a team? Like I'm
Hmm.
so tired of doing it by myself. And
Yes.
I feel like there's different situations like maybe you get introduced to a team member through a friend or like something
Hmm.
like that. Or, you could like I've heard of a lot of manager stories where they work with their friends, like a manager is a friend who has a certain skill set that like aligns with what a manager would want to have, and you can
Hmm.
start there kind of thing.
For sure.
Start
Yeah, come
small.
up with the people you're around. There's
Yeah,
like,
do
yeah.
you have management
Hmm.
or like
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
how did you
No,
meet yours?
it was during the pandemic. I released some really weird music and they liked it.
We love weird music. You're like, yes. I don't know what this is, but I love it.
They saw some
That's
kernel of something in
perfect.
there. And then yeah, we grew together, you know?
Huh.
It's a good energy too to feel like there's no cavalry coming. Make your own momentum and then people are gonna want on that ship.
Yeah.
And
I feel like
yeah.
this is the first time I've wanted to be visible, which I think is an
Mm,
interesting thing as an
interesting.
artist.
Tell me
Because
more
I
about that.
think, yeah,
What do you mean by
I've
that?
been thinking about this recently
Yeah.
because in the past, I started making music because, to be honest, I just had too many emotions that were really bubbling up at a time that was really chaotic in my life. I use it as a form of like desperation almost to let those emotions out. In doing that, it was a very like solo, like solitary action. Like I was writing and recording on my own at that time. And I never even intended on putting it out into the world, but like one thing led to another and I did. And then I started working with a lot of people, which is amazing. I learned so much about the like craft itself. But since I wasn't someone who started out as like a performer who's like craves being on stage or like craves being visible online, that's something only recently that I'm like, okay, well, if I want my art to reach more people, I need to be comfortable with sharing it. I was always very shy about sharing my stuff.
Yeah.
And I think this year is like the year that I actually want to claim more ownership of no, I feel proud of this music and I do want to share it. If people like fuck with it, great. And if not, then like they just won't listen and that's fine.
Yes.
So
Yeah. And I don't know. That's a good point too about making music that feels honest
Mhm.
and putting more of yourself into it, it's almost like opposite of what you might expect. That might allow you to share it more broadly.
More.
Yeah,
Yeah. When you're like, oh yeah, because I guess initially you'd be like, oh my gosh, this is too personal.
exactly.
Like yeah, yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. Yeah, no. I know it was an interesting shift for me because I noticed I was just giving some previews of these songs to some of my artist friends who I really admire. And
Yes.
at first I was like, oh gosh, am I gonna be nervous if they like it? And
Uh-huh.
kind of as they were listening and I was like thinking, I was kind of like, you know what, I obviously I want them to like it,
Mm-hmm.
but I like it so much that
Yeah.
I don't actually care.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that was fun. That was a fun little,
It's
yeah.
good. That confidence, that's infectious, you know? Sometimes those are the things that I think artists need before the team finds them or they
Hmm.
find the team, is like
Hmm.
going through part of that journey, which is very hard, but you kind of got to do some of that alone. And
Yeah.
once you start to develop that confidence and you're like, you know what, I don't care. I don't care how many people are listening to it. I don't care
Yeah,
if my friends like it
literally.
or whatever. I don't care if my hometown likes it. I'm
Oh
going
yeah.
I'm going for somebody in the world, you know?
Right, yeah. If you love it, then somebody else they'll understand like what you were going for and the yeah, purpose behind it.
Exactly. And we have that privilege of, I don't know, global listenership. There's like a bunch of people,
True.
you'll find
Yeah.
your place, just believe in the music, double down on it, create it, release it, and with that confidence, good things come.
Hmm. Amen.
Yeah. So I'm curious how it felt getting your first Spotify like official playlist.
Oh my gosh, that was really exciting. I think I obviously wasn't expecting it.
Mm-hmm.
So I was kind of just like, ooh, what does this mean? Like,
Yes.
yay. Somebody else likes my music. Yay me. I don't know. I mean, I'd written that with my partner actually.
Cool.
And my friend who's an amazing producer, Nathan Chu, he brought to life in the production. And so I was really excited that it almost felt like a win for all of us too. I was kind of
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
look what you guys helped me do, make me like create and like
Yeah. Yeah.
hopefully other people are listening to it too now and like editorials are funny because I think it sounds like this mystical thing that you like want it for the validation almost and then it shares your song to like such a wide audience that they wouldn't have been exposed to your music otherwise. Like all of these people are real listeners,
I
right?
know. Yeah, they're not
So
just numbers. Yeah.
yeah, exactly. So I think that's what I think about. I'm like, you know what? Like, after getting on a few of them, I'm like, I'm so grateful for everyone. It's never a guarantee. I would love to keep getting on these editorial playlists, but I also like don't want to hold the worth of my song
Yeah.
on whether or not it gets on one, you know?
Totally.
So yeah, those are my thoughts.
That's good. Those are good thoughts. I
And
feel
also,
as
there's always people pitching behind the scenes, you
yeah.
know? As much as I'd love it to be like an editorial playlist or like, I mean, you know what? Who knows? Maybe they do stumble upon a song and they're like, this is great.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just add it. But
Yeah.
like more
Yeah.
often than not, they're sent an email with it,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm. Totally. I think you hit on something really interesting because before you get editorial playlists, they are viewed as the panacea, as the elevator, as the thing that's going to
Yeah.
take me over the top.
Yeah.
After you get them, you realize they're an important piece of the puzzle. They're a great broadcast. It's very similar like getting on the radio or something.
Exactly. Yeah.
It doesn't necessarily change everything. It helps. I've had 2 songs on New Music Friday Global.
Amazing. Congrats.
Those are not in my top 10 now.
Mm.
After time, like they get
Mhm.
listens, but
Right.
the sparks that those songs and those playlists provided did not materially change the trajectory of those songs forever. It wasn't
Right.
like, okay, now that's your big song
Yes.
forever.
Yeah.
It's like I love those songs, but what people gravitate to, especially over time, that like they want to listen to for years or put on their own personal playlists or like this is my summer driving song. It's
Yeah.
like it might not be the one that Spotify picked. Is like, hey, this is his hit.
No.
It's like, no, like the actual quote unquote hit is that weird B-side quasi
We
instrumental
love
you
a
did,
weird, a weird B-side. It's
Exactly. I
unique.
got
You're
plenty
like,
of those.
yeah. I think it's the song itself, right? It's like when people
Yeah.
find something that they're really attached to,
Mhm.
they'll add it to their playlist or they'll interact with it. And
Yes.
so
Yes.
more important than like getting on these editorials is like making something you're so proud of that really feels like you. And then
Mhm.
if you get added to an editorial, that's when like maybe other people will be like, well, what is this weird like
Yeah.
thing like that I'm listening to that I love, you know?
It's that conversation. It's like you're bringing in new people because you're getting a broadcast.
Mhm.
But it doesn't necessarily mean that song that brought them in is going to be the song that they're always going to love or live with.
No. Yeah, but it
Sometimes
is
I wish it
helpful
was
in
that
that
easy.
it would be nice, right?
Yeah,
It's like
right.
you think there's like one thing that's gonna like do whoop, but
Yeah,
like no, it's just it's
it's
all things. It's over time,
it
and I
is.
think that's like being patient is something I've learned in this
Yes,
industry,
yes,
and being more flexible. I think too.
totally, totally, and
Honestly, I
it's
think being an artist saved my life in that way.
cool.
Like
Yeah, tell me more about that. What does that
I
mean?
think for me, I don't know. I feel I like to joke. I'm like I'm not very chill. I would love to be
Okay.
more chill as a
Yeah.
human, but I
Yep.
think I was like raised pretty type A
Uh-huh.
and like pretty overachiever, first daughter, immigrant
Yes.
family vibes, loving family. So lucky, very lucky. But yeah, like I've put a lot of pressure on myself
Hmm.
and going the route of like, school, business, and not artistry for a long time in my life, like, and then switching to artistry, it was kind of like first an identity crisis, but then also learning to be more flexible. I think it's made me a happier person. Actually, that's okay, double-edged sword. Because sometimes I'm like, what the hell am I doing? And then I have like
Yeah.
life crises all the time.
Same.
But
Yep, I understand. I understand.
but in general, I think it's made me more of like a jokey person.
Yeah, it puts you in touch with different sides of yourself too, because you're constantly having to like examine your own psyche and write songs about it.
Amen. Yeah, exactly. But yeah, what brought you into music?
I guess I got obsessed with it when a neighbor won a guitar in an auction. She left the guitar over at our house, and then I just like went crazy on the internet and
That's
just
amazing.
never really looked back. I I started making music with like the goal of being a professional, like high school or whatever, and that was I think when I got the bug though was really when I started recording. That's why I still hang my hat more on like production and stuff
Production, yeah.
than playing live a lot. I am playing live and I'm excited to. But like my thing is I love creating, I love cooking in the studio. I
Me
love
too.
having my own studio, playing with
Yeah.
sound, making things that nobody's ever heard
Uh,
before.
I love that. Yeah. Oh
It's
my gosh. I was like, I'm gonna have
obsessive.
to like pick your brain later on all your favorite techniques and stuff
Anytime.
like that. Or now if you want to expose some of them. But
Yeah, yeah,
I don't know. I also really love share that love for the like the
yeah.
music creation process and like I don't know. I consider myself quite a baby producer. I'm always open to learning.
Yeah, I mean, great stuff comes out of that phase.
Music more.
Sorry to interrupt this very important broadcast, but it's time for one more advertisement for myself for this podcast. What I'm asking for is for you to rate it 5 stars, share it with your friends. This is like the most important thing for this podcast to grow. So if you want to do this, you go onto the podcast screen, right? You click on the ... on Spotify. Under there, it says rate show, and you go and you click it. 5 stars. If you could do that for me, that's the best way for the algorithms and all that stuff to share it out with the world. I know that it's a lot to ask, but if you could please just hit those 3 dots and then a 5 star, it would really help us out and helps us, get the word out and spread the love of music. So thank you. If you're listening on YouTube, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thank you so much. And here's the rest of the episode. You're trying.
You don't know what you're
have it.
doing, yeah. So you're just kind of
Exactly.
like, well, let's see if this is good.
Totally. I try to keep that alive
I
inside
love,
myself too, because
yeah.
yeah, no, I don't want to become the person that gets stuck in the same process, always using the same plugins. I like intentionally every couple records or sometimes every record will add in something new to my toolkit, or I'll abandon
Nice.
something that I was leaning on too much as a crutch beforehand.
Okay.
So like one of my big techniques and things that I've thought about and has like really changed the quality of my recording has been setting like master fader or like the final fader settings earlier on in the production. So I'm like pushing all of the sound into
Oh,
kind of like
interesting.
what I've got going on over there. So a lot of
Yeah.
times it's like an Ampex virtual tape, SSL style bus compressor, maybe Gullfoss, which is like a EQ resonance thing that makes things sound
Huh.
better. But I've been tweaking what those settings are and
Ah,
what those plugins are for every single record. So every single record's got a little bit more tape or a little bit less tape or a
that's
little bit
sick.
more distortion
And
or
then you'll
less
have it
distortion
on like the master channel, like just from the get-go
from the
before you
get-go.
start anything.
So
That's
every
sick.
sound that I do runs through that.
Hear
So
that, yeah.
and the reason why I did that is I didn't do that earlier on, and I would
Okay.
like make a whole drum part,
Yeah.
and then
Oh,
I
and
would
then
have
the sound
the
after would be like,
it's completely different. And I'd be
yeah,
like, well,
yeah.
I wrote the whole song for this drum part, and now that everything's being compressed and distorted and saturated and whatever together,
Yeah.
the drums sound completely different. And so it
Mhm.
was that feeling of like, I don't want to be surprised in the mix. Like doing a little bit of mix, like I still do like a full-on proper mix session of every song, but like setting myself up so I at least kind of know the general direction that I'm charting towards. And at the
I think
very
that's
end, I'm not
smart.
like, this is like a
So
totally different
surprised
kick
you're like, well,
drum.
this is like a total, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. I don't want to be like
Sounds
that. I
fun.
want to like have a nice progression towards
Yeah.
like the goal rather than a series of like late stage surprises. Early stage surprises totally cool with, but
Welcome. Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
like I already
Late
tracked the
stage.
vocal to this thing and now it's different. It's like
No.
crap.
Well, that's a
Yeah.
good tidbit. I'm definitely
Thanks.
gonna play around with that. I do work with a mastering chain on it too, but
Yeah.
I think I
Yeah.
could be a bit more specific with it because I
hmm
truly don't know what I'm doing with that.
It's,
So
it's
I've just slapped things on that I'm like, that sounds right. That sounds good. Sure.
that's no one knows what they're doing.
Yeah.
There are people with more confidence because they make more money, but nobody has the answer. Everybody's just doing stuff, trying to make stuff sound good.
Fair enough. Yeah.
And if you set the
Um,
mastering chain or like whatever, the master bus settings in one place, that doesn't mean everything's going to sound like that. It just means that the ways that you are routing the audio through that river to get to the goal is just going to be slightly different in order to like maintain that. So like for example, I've done mixes with a bunch of tape saturation and virtual tapes throughout and a bunch of
mhm,
sessions without any of that. They don't sound
mhm.
that different. Like they should, but it's because
Right.
I'm adjusting. Like I'm like, oh no,
Okay,
I
okay.
want it to sound a little warmer, so
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
adding
yeah,
in some
yeah.
more warmth over here because I don't have it later in the stage.
Okay, one thing that I think is important with this EP is like
Yes.
that it really was born out of experimentation
Good.
and
Yeah.
really not knowing what I was doing, but
Yeah.
being okay with that,
hmm
which historically is not my personality. Sometimes I'm like, I really want to be good at something. Maybe I'll give up certain things prior to like diving into it.
Yeah.
But I think like being good at something, especially with production, it's like you just really have to be patient and
hmm
like grow a taste for what you like. And I
hmm
think that's pretty important, especially in the early stages of it, and like not really caring what it fully sounds like until you get further along in the process.
Yes.
What do you think for like early stage producers? Because I feel like, especially like with the skew of like male to female producers
Yeah.
and like non-binary, you know, like I
Uh-huh.
think I would love to wake up in a world in the future where there are a lot more female producers who felt
Agreed.
like it was okay to like take that leap,
Yes.
even though they didn't see as many people doing it, you know?
Yep. Totally agreed. And I think there needs to be more resources and some of these things need to be demystified. I think
Yeah,
that part of what it
the
is that
demystifying part
yeah,
for sure.
like some of these mix engineers, like I'll go to
So,
the NAMM show, right? And there will be all these mix panels. Some of them are so arrogant and so prickly that I think it turns people off to even getting started because they go, I'll just hire somebody. Or like, oh,
right,
they know what they're doing. I don't know what I'm doing. So I trust their confidence. And I
right.
understand, like that's job security for them. So they're
Yeah,
trying to like pump up their stock so that people come and give them their music because they're the oracle and no one else can become the oracle. It's just not the case. That's not the way it is. And so I
right.
think part of it is just the confidence, that leap of faith, and having resources to do so. And then you can always produce and then hire a mix and master engineer. There's nothing
That's
wrong
what
with
I
that.
do.
Yeah, that's what like
Yeah.
almost everyone does.
And I
And
actually like that
it's
that
the best. It's
it's
the
like you
best.
give other people something that you worked on, you give them with fresh ears, and they
Yep.
get to add like their taste and like their things to it. And like you can work with them closely to be like, actually, what you brought out there, I don't love. Like, could
Yes.
we bring that a bit more down? Like, this was the vision. And like, yeah, I there's nothing wrong with that.
Those are the ways that I think you can create an environment in which you can grow, but grow in stages rather than trying to
Hmm.
digest the whole thing all at once. I still use a mastering engineer
That's
because
great.
I, I don't know. It's
Right?
like
Yeah,
I don't need to do that final frontier. And it's nice to have somebody else
it
give me that gut
is.
check and be like, hey, this sounds like crap. Go back and do it again.
I don't think they're saying
They used to. They used to. They're honest.
that.
I
We
got
all
them
have
better.
that moment. Actually, my mixing engineer very nicely was like, "How about we do this?" And I'm
Yeah.
like, "Yes, I'm
Yes.
down."
Yes.
Yeah.
But I think finding those communities, finding those workflows
Mhm.
unlock things that you wouldn't have expected or allow
Mhm.
you to produce or do something that you thought was out of your wheelhouse. But
Mhm.
if you have people that you trust somewhere in the chain to give you that
Yeah.
gut check and
Yeah.
point you in a different direction sometimes when you need to, or hype you up when you
Yeah.
need to be hyped up, I think that will help unlock more diversity in the audio
Totally.
industry.
I think my favorite way to like get like an easy entryway into the production side is
Yes.
working with producers who are willing to like just let you like peer over their shoulder, ask
hmm
questions while you're recording, you know, like some of my favorite producers that I work with were so willing to teach. You know, they're just friends who are like,
Yeah.
"Oh yeah, like oh, this is what I'm doing. And like,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
great. Like, why did you choose this plugin? Or
Mhm.
what did you do there to make that sound so sparkly or whatever? And
Yeah.
like, they were just so happy to share. And I think if you surround yourself with people like that to work with in the first place, first of all, you're going to have a better time because they're more fun and they're
Yeah.
nicer.
Agreed.
Second of all, you'll come out with like some little tidbits that you could try at home, you know? So,
Totally.
yeah.
Totally. And none of this should be gate kept. Like
No,
the
I
goal
kind
is for music. And
Yeah. I was like, why? I don't know. Part of I have like a funny perception. I'm kind of like, are you insecure like about your workflow? Are you
Mhm.
scared that someone's gonna just like steal it and then like I don't know. It's just what's the point?
it's not the tools. It's like,
No.
do carpenters still get hired if people can like own table saws? It's like, I don't know. Like everybody has access to the same tools that I do. They just don't
Mhm.
have my ears. And
Yeah.
some people have got better taste than I do, and I've got better taste than other people, and I can be plugged into a lot of different stages in the process. So I'm not scared that I'm going to lose my job if somebody
Yeah.
learns how to produce or mix.
Yeah. And it's
Like,
like taste is so like subjective too. You know, it's
totally.
like a culmination of like all the things that you like to listen to. So it's like if people
Exactly.
have similar tastes, they'll want your work.
Right.
And if they don't, they'll probably want someone else.
That's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
And also, like, I celebrate people taking more ownership of their music, even if that means that I'm not getting a gig or something like that.
That would make me happy too.
It does. It makes
Because
me
I'm
happy
like, you've
too.
unlocked something that's awesome, you know? Good vibes.
Good vibes. Good vibes. I think sometimes the people that gatekeep too much might not actually completely know what they're doing. Because I think a lot of the stuff you
Love that.
you cannot completely know what you're doing. Like
Yeah, fair enough.
there should be humility in audio because audio is weird. Everything affects everything else. You make one change in one area, now all of a sudden the bass is too loud and you don't know why.
True. Yeah.
But it's just like it is. And
then it's too loud and you're kind of like, is this nice? Do we
right,
like
yeah,
it?
exactly. But and you have to make a million gut check micro decisions all the way through. And that's why it is nice to have somebody else because then like you don't have to make
Yeah.
all of the million in every single stage. You can have
Also,
somebody
your
else
ears
make
get
some.
tired.
Totally get
like
tired.
You,
100%.
So you're just kind of like, I no longer know if this is what I want.
Yes. Yes. Yeah.
Take breaks.
Take breaks. Walk. Go for walks.
Yes.
Nature is good.
Amen. I miss real nature.
Yeah,
Not
yeah.
that, like,
Let's talk
there's
about your
no
move.
real-
Let's talk about talking about nature.
too.
Like I did a camping trip in Squamish
did
with my
you?
homies.
Oh, nice.
I think we were like 19 or 20, so we could drink. We were so
Oh,
excited.
hell yeah. You're like, this is the country.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, we do have bears over there. I went back for the summer and luckily landed on a long weekend when my friends were going camping. And I was
Hey.
like, oh, perfect. Like, I've
Sweet.
craved being out in nature.
Yeah.
There was like a bear in our campsite. I was like, oh my goodness, I am so far from being like the Canadian I was prior to moving to London. I'm a city girl. I'm a city girl. Don't eat me. No, Canada is an amazing place. Bear safety is a thing. So if you're going camping in places that have wildlife, just know what you're doing. Don't leave your food out. That's silly.
That's silly.
Yeah.
Don't bring food in your tent. Don't need to do
Yeah,
that.
perhaps not. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
some people, I feel like that's not, nobody knows if you're not told, right? So
Right,
if you're
yeah.
listening to this and you plan to camp in bear country, don't bring bear food.
They are strong.
They are fast, dude. If you've ever watched a video of a bear running and sprinting up a tree, that is scary.
It's crazy. I am more scared of moose though.
All right. Oh, you know what? Fair enough. Because if they charge you,
You're done.
it's not good. Oh gosh, could you imagine that's the way you go? Moose.
Oh, yeah.
Moose cash.
I actually can. I actually can't imagine that. That's
Oh no. Don't manifest
That's why I'm scared of it.
that.
Yeah. Moose, Final Destination version.
What
Not
was
the
the
moose, the move. Going to the UK, getting into that scene. I know you've been playing shows out there. The contrast, because I know you've done New York, you've done some shows in LA, you've done obviously hometown shows and opened for some great
Yeah.
artists in Vancouver. Compare and contrast those industries a little bit, or at least the vibe around like live
Yeah.
music.
There's definitely more going on here.
Okay,
In
yeah,
London,
yeah, yeah,
obviously.
yeah.
I mean, it's a bigger city, like geographically. It's also it's like population density is much, it's more
Yeah.
dense here. So there's a lot more going on.
Okay.
I think culture is also quite different that drives that. Vancouver, everyone is quite outdoorsy. Not everyone, but like a large majority. And if you're not outdoorsy, you'll probably eventually get into it just
Right.
by peer pressure. No, I'm
Yep,
just kidding.
yep.
But it's just a different culture. And I
Mhm.
think more people are willing to go to shows on a like moment's notice here in London.
Okay.
Like
Yeah.
it's just people, like to be out and about drinking more.
Yeah.
Like I've definitely drank a lot more this last year than I had.
Imagine. I would be doing
The
the same if
problem-
I was in
yes.
London. At least their beers
Yeah.
are light.
Oh yeah, I know. And I've gotten into Guinness, which is like
Nice. Yeah.
fun,
You have the real
yeah.
Guinness out there too. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Split the G. It's like a fun game that I'm kind of competitive, so I'm like I
Okay.
love playing a game, and if you give me a
Okay.
game with alcohol, I'm like hell yeah, let's play
Yes, I'm
Guinness.
in.
With the music scene here, it's been really easy to like meet artist friends. So
Yes.
I feel like I've created a group of like-minded artist gal friends that like I hang out with, and like that's a new experience for me because
Okay.
in Vancouver I had great artist friends that I love, but we just didn't see each other as often.
Hmm.
I wouldn't
Okay.
say they were like my primary friend group, and I mean there's benefits to both cities for sure. I
Yeah.
feel like I had a lot more downtime in Vancouver and more
Hmm.
headspace to like breathe, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
London, sometimes I get overwhelmed. Very different cities, I'd say.
Yeah. Yeah, that's interesting to think about how that impacts
For
music
music.
culture
Yeah.
and live culture. And yeah, having people that are more, yeah, excited to be out every night and
Hmm.
public transportation and stuff so you can
It's
get,
so easy.
yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
I was
True.
surprised though by how deep the tube is. Like, when I was walking
Like
down there
how
for the first time,
underground it
it's so
is.
underground.
It is so underground.
It's like, no
You do
wonder
have to
this is
take
a
quite a
bomb
few.
shelter. Like, I'm in the center of the earth.
Yeah, yeah, fair enough. I've actually never thought of it that way,
I'm sorry.
which almost scares me for an earthquake now, but that's fine.
I don't know. Do they get earthquakes? They like barely have
Oh yeah,
mountains
that's a good
in the
point.
UK.
That's a good point. Unclear whether or not
Spoken
they're
like a
anywhere
true
near
Pacific
the
Rim person.
tectonic plates.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'm like thinking
exactly.
about like the ones
Yeah,
in Vancouver. I'm
same.
like, there's one coming.
Exactly.
Oh, no.
Exactly.
Have you been out here like what a few times or just like
Yeah,
once or
yeah, a few
twice?
times. I've done some
Cool.
some small tours and stuff, and then
Oh,
there's the
amazing.
best thing ever
Yeah.
was I got stranded in London for like 3 weeks because the artist I was with had to renew her visa to come back to the United States. So
Oh,
she's
you
just
didn't
like,
want to leave her.
just
Yeah.
stay, just stay. Maybe
You're
we'll find
like,
some shows. I'm like, okay.
did
So I
you?
got
Did
to
you have
like,
a good time?
it was awesome. It was
Oh,
amazing.
good. Yeah. Maybe it's
Yeah.
meant to be.
It was
Yeah,
great.
London's
It
a fun
was.
city.
It was. It was like it was my moment to be like, okay, what would it be like to live in London? I'm like, I like it. I could do
Yeah,
this.
I like
Yeah,
it.
it was awesome.
I
It
like
was
San
awesome.
Diego a lot, honestly.
I love San Diego as
Like
well.
I used to go down there quite a bit when I was in university.
Yeah, this is
Um,
my favorite like home base in the world because, like you're saying,
yeah.
it has that space, that chill kind of thing,
Uh-huh.
but there is energy and there's access. And the
Yeah.
airport is like super tiny, but it flies everywhere, and
Perfect.
it's just
And
like
also
kind of
LA's
sweet.
drivable. Like
LA
you
is
can
super
get to LA
drivable, like
really,
hour and a
yeah,
half
exactly.
from where I'm at,
Yeah.
basically.
Oh,
Yeah,
crazy.
yeah,
Oh, you're
without
up north.
traffic, of course. Yeah,
Nice.
could be
Yeah, I was gonna say, I was
12
like,
hours of
traffic
traffic.
even within LA is like an
Yeah.
hour.
And we actually have a train. Like I'm proud of the fact that we
I
have
didn't know you had
this.
a
We do,
train.
and it's beautiful. It is absolutely
Oh,
gorgeous. Like I love that train so much. I will sometimes watch the video from
I would
like
go on the train for fun.
yeah,
It's,
like yeah,
like,
exactly.
hilarious.
Seriously, like yeah, I would. But I'll put it up on my side monitor, like when I'm making music of just like the nice vibes and views of going on
Nice.
that
Oh, I
train at
love
sunset
that.
because it's just it's so good because it's a coastal
What makes it so
route.
Oh, is the
Yeah.
ride pretty or is the train itself
The
pretty? Or
ride,
both?
the train is
Oh,
fine.
the ride.
Like the
Oh,
ride
okay,
itself
okay.
is just gorgeous because it goes through like rolling
Oh.
California hills into
Oh.
right up against the coast. That thing's gonna fall into the coast 100%.
Oh, got it.
It stretches in Del Mar, and that's like what I'm thinking of.
Oh,
that basically hugs the
beautiful.
coast. It's absolutely gorgeous, and then it goes out through Oceanside,
Wow.
Camp Pendleton, and then into LA.
I
But
think
yeah,
the issue
it's
is
great.
in LA though, you need a car. So it's
Yeah,
like
yeah.
somebody else drive, I'll take the train.
Doing LA without a car, and if you can figure out the logistics. But yeah. I mean, it's interesting. Like San Diego versus LA. LA's got that music scene, like where there's
Totally.
always stuff going on. But it's a
I'd
little
say
bit of a
LA is
double-edged.
quite different from London though.
It is
in
because
I
LA, everybody's
love-
got something to do, and everybody's looking for the cooler thing to do. So like
yeah.
they will drop whatever you've got going on, even if they said yes, if something else
hate-
comes up that's cooler. And so it's just this constant competitive
Well,
match.
how do you feel about the songwriting scene itself? I mean, obviously, I was in like very small circles whenever I was going down there. Also, I haven't gotten to live in LA as a songwriter before versus
Yeah.
like I obviously do in London.
Uh-huh.
I just feel like the songwriting here is weirder, and I
Cool.
love a weird
Yeah.
choice.
Yeah.
You know?
Songwriting in LA, yeah, it's very different. Like Nashville. Nashville's got the true
Storytelling, country
storytelling, and like you
influence.
can go in anywhere. Everybody's a songwriter. There's like a different
that.
edge. LA,
Yeah.
you kind of find these sub niches and communities, and a lot of it is centered around like who's actually in town because everybody's touring. Everybody's like a side
Right.
musician.
That makes sense. Yeah.
That's the biggest difficulty of LA is you can have like a community, you can have a lot of friends,
Yeah.
and then everyone just like
Yeah.
disappears for a while because they go out on the road with like cool acts. But then it almost feels like everybody like half or like 30% lives in LA because
That's
everyone's
very
always
low.
on the road. Yeah, I know. I know. I know a lot of people that like basically are homeless because they're on the road so much, and it just
Wow.
makes
Yeah,
way
and why
more
would
sense.
you pay for rent if
Totally.
you're gonna? Yeah. Huh. That's interesting. Yeah, I've
Yeah.
never been to Nashville. I would really love to go. Like, I
Nashville's cool.
love.
Nashville's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I did a couple weeks out there. I can see how somebody who really, really wants to feel that songwriting community
Yeah.
and group
It's
kind of
my.
thing,
It's
Nashville's
definitely
probably
more
the spot.
my
Yeah,
bread and butter.
yeah, exactly. It's beautiful. Well, that's fun. That's fun. Thanks for comparing and contrasting those cities
Oh
for me.
yeah, of course.
I'm curious what you think is kind of your next step. Like, so you're going to be
Yeah.
promoting this new EP. Would love to hear a little bit
Mhm.
about that, and just kind of like, yeah,
Of
where do you
course.
see yourself going?
Yeah, well, we have a date set for the first single off of this EP.
Yes.
The track is called Sunny Blue,
Cool.
and I'd say it's like an indie rock, a little
Yeah.
brooding track. For me, I'm like, okay, well, I'm getting a little nervous because I'm like, well, this is the first time I'll be telling the world that I'm like, I made this on my own.
Yeah.
Please don't hate it.
Yeah.
But no, I'm really excited just because I really like the song. I think it's like a nice entryway into the rest of the EP. It's giving people a taste of like a bit more of an indie side to like my writing,
Okay.
rather than I think a lot of the stuff that I've released is a little bit more indie pop leaning.
Yeah.
And
Hmm.
I'd say this is like a little bit more indie singer-songwriter. So,
Love that.
I mean, not that that's a big distinction, but
Yeah,
like
but it's real.
a bit of a shift.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, I chose a lot of lyrics that just, I don't know if in a writing room people would be like, yeah, I fully understand that. I'm like, that's
Uh-huh.
okay because, I've got to make the choices by myself this time. So,
Good. I just think it's fun for listeners to think about the strategy and like the ways that we think
Yeah, fair
about like
enough.
how do you put music out there nowadays, and like how do you get people to actually listen to it, and that single
yeah,
strategy.
I mean, I think the goal is just like to give each song some space to
Yeah.
breathe, right?
Yes.
And like
Yes.
give it its time to live and like have people really fall in love with it and or
Mhm.
even hear it, hype up the next one, and then link all of them together into the world that it lives in. I think
Yeah.
the whole project does definitely live in its own very like washy world that
Good.
is my brain sometimes.
Yes.
So
Yes. And I like the idea too of like letting a song be as its own thing, and then also showcasing it as part of a collection, and like
Totally.
seeing how that changes and how that the perception of that song shifts.
yeah, yeah. I love like hearing singles and then getting to see where it existed in like I
Yes.
think that's really cool.
I agree. So I've got one last question for you. It's the same question I ask every guest. The show is called Love Music More, and this segment is called Love Music Why. I would love to hear, why do you love music?
There's so many things that excite me about music. On the creation side,
Mhm.
it's definitely getting to have something special. It's almost like it came out of thin air. You're just
Yeah.
like, well, that didn't exist 24 hours ago.
Mhm.
And this new, like, just, I don't know, it's just like, oh, you could build a world
Yeah.
in a day. It's like building a world in a day. Like Rome wasn't built in a day, but a song could have been. Who's to say, right? I think on that side, that's the magic that really excites me. The choices of sounds and like the choices of energy throughout a song. And then as a listener, I think being able to be brought into somebody else's world for like 3 to 4 to 10
Yeah.
minutes, like that's really special. And it's like you get to hear them. Like some of these songs that I'm putting out, I'm like, you get to hear a snapshot of me.
Mm.
And I think that's really cool. So that's what makes me love music.
Great
It's
answer.
like connection, I guess, is the
Yeah.
main thing.
Connection and world building. I love that.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
where can people get in touch? Where can they follow you and listen to you?
Instagram, it's Serena L, like Lisa. That's my middle name. Sun. Serena Sun was taken. Don't know who that girl is, but hey, if you're listening to this, we've got
Give
no, I'm just
it to
kidding.
me.
We've got
Yeah.
beef. No, I'm just kidding. You could give me the username if you want. But yeah, Serena L Sun on Instagram, at Serena L Sun, I believe, on TikTok as well.
Cool.
Serena Sun Music on YouTube. Serena Sun on all streaming platforms. And that's my name, in case you were wondering.
Yeah, in case you.
In case you didn't know.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much for joining us
Thank you
and,
so
and
much
sharing
for
your story.
having me.
My pleasure.
This is great.
I'm so glad.
Hit me up if you're ever in London.
I will. I'll be there.
Please do. Yeah.